Hey guys, it's Chelsea here, and I'm just popping in to let you know about a very exciting offer we're currently providing for our members of the Society at TFD, our exclusive community available to join here on YouTube or on Patreon. As you've probably noticed, we've recently partnered with Advisor.com, a company many of you guys have been loving. Instead of taking commissions or charging exorbitant percentage-based fees like many traditional financial advisors, Advisor.com provides their clients with a top-notch advising team for a fixed, flat annual fee. They put the possibility of financial planning within reach for those who don't already have millions in the bank, because they believe that getting to work with a living, breathing financial advisor should not be reserved for the ultra-wealthy. Their team of advisors work for you, not commissions, and will help you achieve your smart financial goals through planning, investing, tax strategizing, and more. And right now, they're providing an exclusive offer to members of the Society at TFD. Members can get $500 off of Advisor.com's annual fee by signing up with Advisor.com today. This offer applies to both existing members and those who join the Society today. When you join either here on YouTube or on Patreon, you can easily access your exclusive code by checking the Members tab here on YouTube or in the feed on your Patreon app. Remember, giving to TFD directly by joining the Society is the best way to guarantee that we can continue to make the content that you love. Members can also get $500 off the annual fee with Advisor.com. Click the join button below to join the Society and get your exclusive offer code today.
So my name is Katie. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I'm an editor for a startup media company, and I'm 26. I make $93,000 a year.
And my name's Michael. I'm 31 years old. I'm a senior managing editor for a medical communications company. I live in Roscoe, New York, and I make $120,000 a year. All right. So what is your rent/mortgage? Is it low, average, or high for your area?
Mine is 1447.81. Very random number, but I live in a rent-controlled unit, so it goes up by a random fixed percentage every year. I think it's really low for my area. I know the unit above me that is exactly like the one I live in is about $2,800 a month. So I'm very thankful to be in this apartment, and it's part of the reason, I mean, you and I have discussed it's hard for me to let go and possibly move in because the price is one of the very special things about this apartment among other qualities.
Yeah, you can't find that anywhere out there.
Yeah. What about you?
So my mortgage is, I don't have it down to the cents like you, but it's 1610. I paid $294,000 for the house. I think it was about average. I bought in 2021, so the prices weren't quite as crazy as they are now. I feel like they've gone up a good bit since I bought my house. So even just looking at recently, I don't know how accurate these are, but looking at the current market value of my house, it's gone up almost 100,000 since I bought it.
That's crazy to think that it's only been 2 years. And what is that on Zillow that it's gone up that much?
Yeah, it was just kind of like the Zestimate or whatever you see on there. So I don't know how accurate that is, but yeah, and I don't remember seeing like other mortgages what the averages were for up here, but I would imagine mine is probably kind of average for the area.
Okay, so next question is, how do you know each other and how did we meet?
Cool. So I can go first on that one. So we met on Hinge, actually, the dating app. It was kind of just an in-between period for me. I had actually moved home during to my parents' house during the pandemic to save a little bit more before I bought a house. And I had also just gotten out of a relationship, so I was on there. And my parents live in New Jersey, which is about 50 miles away from where Katie lives in Brooklyn. But I don't think either of us realized we had our distance set quite to that far. And I knew where Katie was when we first met on there, but I don't think she realized where I was. So I went out to meet her for the first time, and that was when she figured out I was driving about an hour and a half to get to her. So we've been long distance pretty much from the beginning. But yeah, we were a pandemic couple.
That was about 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years next month.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is, do you have any savings or investments, and what is your best saving strategy?
I do. I have a 401k, a regular savings account, an investment account, and I have another 401k through my current employer. For me, the easiest thing to do is set it and forget it. I have automatic deductions from my paycheck, automatic deductions from my checking account. So when I get my paycheck, I take another percentage out of that to put into savings. A little bit goes into savings, a little bit goes into an investment account. Those contributions for me are really small right now because I'm focusing on paying off debt. So I think to my actual savings account and to my investment account, I do like $100 a month right now. And for a while, I was contributing 8% of my paycheck toward my 401k at my current employer. The other one right now from a past employer, I'm just letting sit before I decide where, if I'm going to roll it into a new account. If I don't see it, it doesn't exist. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you have a bit more of an actual strategy than me. I wouldn't say at this point I have a best strategy yet. I do have savings, but I'm less organized than you with it right now. So I have a 401k through work. I'm contributing to that, but not a ton or not as much as I was years ago, just because well, I guess it's been a couple of years I've been in my house now, but I borrowed a little bit from my 401k to contribute to the down payment for the house when I bought this place. And in the immediate time after that, I was kind of focusing more on just building up my like savings money that I had with me right then, just to feel a little bit more safe in the house for anything that might happen. In terms of savings outside of that, I'm very, very much a caveman. I just save money, but I don't have it in a separate account right now. I just kind of save it and don't let myself go into a certain amount of that. And we were just talking the other day about how sometime soon I need to open up a savings account, an actual savings account, and
A
start,
high yield savings account.
yes, and start organizing my savings that way. But at the moment, I'm a little bit behind the curve with all that.
I also have to do a high yield savings account someday. But yeah, I guess going into the next question too, this is kind of where my answer will go, but you go first. Do you have any debt?
Yes, yeah, and I think we both talked about this. I have some credit card debt. That's kind of like you, what I'm focusing on paying down now before I make any big moves financially or anything like that. So I have student loans, which just became a thing again, nothing too crazy. I think in total, so I went to community college first, and then I went to a 4-year school. And so community college was pretty cheap. I had all that paid for. My parents were able to help me out, and they were able to help me out through most of my 4 year school too. But I had to take loans out for my last couple of semesters. So I ended up with like 10K in debt coming out of school. And I've paid that down very slowly just because I was aware that there was a possibility that it might get canceled. So I've been just kind of paying the minimum. I think right now it's at about 5,000, something like that. And I'm hoping at some point it goes away again. Yeah, I have them, but they feel like they're under control at the moment.
I've got credit card debt I'm working on, which was mainly accrued for me when I was unemployed in early 2021, I believe, after being laid off. That was an interesting time for me because I was working freelance, as well as waiting on a union negotiated severance package, which I am so, so thankful for the union at that time. But because we were going back and forth with management, it actually took about 4 months for me to get the severance package. I know Michael was with me during all of this. I also was not getting paid for a lot of my freelance invoices on time. My clients were about 3 months behind on paychecks. So there were a couple of months where I had zero balance coming in terms of money. So a lot of necessities were unfortunately put on a credit card. And I think I racked up, I think over 2 years, I got in about $15,000 worth of credit card debt. I've been paying more than 50% of my income toward that for the last year and a half. Thankfully, should be done with the high interest debt in the next 2 months, I think. And Then I have another card that's got a 0% interest rate from a balance transfer I did to save on some of the interest. Hopefully I'll have that done before June. And then of course I also have student loans. I went to a 4-year public school in Ohio, where I'm from. I'm very thankful to have had a tuition reduction because my mom worked at the university. So it wasn't free tuition, but I only paid a percentage of the tuition most other students would have. Fortunately and unfortunately, at the time she was unemployed. So from the FAFSA, I received a lot of student aid my first 2 years because we were living technically under the federal poverty line. So I received a lot of grants, which was great because you don't have to pay those back. But over my 4 years, I accrued around $20,000 in student debt, paid down a couple thousand. And then during the pandemic, when we were allowed to take those payments back, I did, in the name of one, being able to pay my bills, and two, thinking that student loan forgiveness was going to happen. All of my debt would have been forgiven, even with taking those payments back. So I did that. And of course, now we'll be resuming payments in October with an income-driven repayment plan. So that's a whole bigger discussion on student loans and the cost of an education in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next question is, how do you handle difficult money conversations as a couple?
We're very comfortable talking about money together. I am pretty straightforward about money in an effort to be transparent and like push myself to not feel like money is a really precious thing to talk about, because I feel like there's a lot of stigma around it, especially as a woman. I feel like we're not supposed to talk about money. So that's something I've really pushed myself to do amongst friends, and of course, like between the two of us too. And it's really important thinking about when and if we're moving in together, how we're going to split the cost of things, and being long distance too. I think it's important that we discuss those things from past experiences in relationships and also familial relationships. As you know, I would rather know what I am getting into, and I want my partner to feel the same in terms of financial stuff. I want them to be completely aware of my financial situation, and I would love to be aware of theirs. So
I even remember when we first started dating, like, I don't remember the specific conversations, but just hearing you talk to other people, like when money would come up, and it would be with a friend or someone along those lines, or just even an acquaintance. Like if the conversation came up, you never had a problem saying, "Yeah, I make this much money." And there were a few instances, I feel like, where the person might have been taken aback or just kind of gave like a vague answer in response. And that's fine. Everybody's entitled to be a little bit more private about their finances if they want to. But I think it's nice to be open in that way, because it really does kind of help take some of the stigmas you were talking about away. Like,
not to go off on a tangent, but part of the reason I was so open about money, especially when we first started dating, is I was personally really frustrated with how little I was making, with the amount of hours I was working, 60 to 70 hours a week, making $40,000, living in New York City alone. And I was very frustrated to have found out too that some of my colleagues who were in the same exact position with the same amount of experience that I had were making $15,000 to $16,000 more than me. And that was definitely a turning point for me personally, to be like, I'm angry about this and other people should be too.
yeah, I think our relationship has also benefited from the fact that we've gotten pretty fortunate in terms of money over the course of the relationship. Like we both now make more than, so we've been dating for 3 years, and we both now make well more than twice as much as we were making when we met. But yeah, I think it all starts with the transparency, and that kind of leads to these conversations being easier in general.
Yeah. The two of us have definitely job hopped.
Yeah, well, I would
in the past 3 years.
very much advocate for job hopping, not leaving every job you get, but when possible, when you're not entirely satisfied with your salary, because in my career, I found that makes a huge difference compared to just waiting for promotions.
Things are very different. You don't need to stay at the same company for 20 years to climb the ranks. And unfortunately, that's not how it works anymore. I don't think companies respect their employees as much as they used to. Yeah, the next question is, what was your financial upbringing like?
Yeah, so it wasn't a hard financial upbringing, thankfully. My family was middle class. We didn't really have any big money issues that I was aware of, so I was kind of blissfully ignorant throughout my childhood. And even as I got to be a teenager, my parents supported me pretty well. So I struggled a little bit with mental health throughout high school. I had a big problem with panic attacks and was a very shy, introverted person by nature. So doing a lot of the typical jobs teenagers do, like retail jobs, stuff where you're kind of customer facing, was not really something I ever wanted to do. And thankfully, I was kind of able to avoid that. And I mean, I did end up working. I did a lot of jobs like odd jobs like yard work, pet sitting, things like that. But I didn't really, for a while at least, have the experience of having to fend for myself and until I was in college, and then kind of learned that slowly through that time period. My dad makes a good living as a chemist, so that was helpful for the family in general. And they split up somewhere along the way, and I think that kind of was my first real view of having to make ends meet and stuff. Not because we were in a tough situation, but my mom did at that point, she wasn't working previously, and she did start taking on some jobs that were more along the lines of odd jobs, cleaning houses. She was a medical transcriptionist for a while. Just things here and there to kind of make things work for her, living as a single parent at in the family house. I have a good relationship with both of them, but that was kind of like the first time I saw a new financial situation in the family, I guess you could say.
My financial upbringing was a little different just because I did grow up with a single mother, and my parents got divorced when I was around 7. I'm the youngest of 3 as well, so unfortunately, I kind of faced the brunt of the divorce in terms of the financial fallout. Unfortunately, my father said to my mother and I that he wanted to ruin her financially through the divorce. So that was really hard for both of us, but especially her. And I don't know how she did it. But she worked full time while I was in school. She was also in school, and I never felt uncared for or that we were lacking in any way. She always made sure that, the two of us were taken care of, and that, of course, also my older brothers were taken care of. They were in college when I was 8 years old, so they were a little better able to take care of themselves. And of course, she tried to help out where she could, but I definitely started working a lot younger than some of my friends. I technically worked under the table for the first 2 years of my high school career. I was paid in cash and worked at a friend's parents' restaurant. Before that, I babysat a lot for family friends and, my mom's coworkers if they had younger children. I tried to help out as much as I could. I was very lucky in that when it came to the expenses at home, my mom was able to cover most of that, or at least as a child, I didn't realize she was struggling with those things as a full-time student who was also working. And I do appreciate now as an adult, she was very open with me about our financial struggles, but it was never something that made me fearful. It was never like to create a fearful environment. It was to be honest about why I couldn't perhaps get a certain toy or, do these things that other kids my age wanted to do. And I'm getting a little emotional. So sorry. I'm just very proud of her for being able to provide for me the way she did. And it's part of the reason I'm so transparent about things today. But yeah, very different. I worked a couple of jobs in high school. I was working like anywhere from 15 to 35 hours a week while I was in high school to pay for gas. The two of us shared a car. She was often picking up summer classes to make a little more money, teaching in the evenings. And then when I was in college, she worked full time at the university where I was going to school. So that definitely helped me with tuition. And then I worked 3 jobs all throughout school and also freelanced for some media publications to pay my rent and pay for bills. Yeah, so she tried to help me wherever she could. Unfortunately, she had to survive and do her thing too. So I know she feels bad that she can't help me as often as she can or as often as she would like. And I'm so, so grateful that, to have a parent who cares that much to try and help me out where she can. But yeah, a little different, but good all the same. I think I learned a lot from her and I'm still very thankful to,
Yeah.
have learned those lessons from her.
I'm curious how this next question,
Oh man.
how everything you just said weighs on this next question, because I'm sure it shapes a lot of your view of it. But
Yeah.
it's a very broad one. What does success mean to you?
I think for me, it's stability. I would love to be able to provide for my family, both future family. I know you and I have talked about this, obviously. I do not plan on having children, but I would love to be able to take care of my mom, nieces, nephews, brothers in some capacity, as well as, perhaps your parents someday. And we have 4 dogs between the two of us. I have one and Michael has 3. So being able to provide for them, being able to pay for my living expenses and have money left over to do what I want to do, whether that's travel or, like splurge on great food or like a new pair of shoes would be probably success for me.
I feel like I kind of need to come up with a new definition for it myself at this point, because for years the dream for me was to be able to work from home full time so that I'm not going into an office and live in the woods somewhere with land and my dogs. That was basically it, the whole dream. And I've actually already achieved that. So I work from home full time. I live in a cabin in the Catskills at the top of a mountain with 5 acres, and I have 3 dogs to enjoy it. So that was for the longest time pretty much as far as I was thinking ahead. So it's being able to be comfortable and not have to worry about money while being able to still, like you said, do the things you want to do and take care of any family members who might need it. That's very general because that could mean a lot of the different things. And I really haven't thought about part of why I need to come up with a new definition is because I haven't thought about it in terms of the specifics. I think as I get older, it's more important to come up with real numbers behind that and things along those lines.
Yeah, definitely. It's been fun to watch you do all of those things as well. I feel grateful to have seen you do those things and continue to succeed financially and in life in
Thank
general.
you.
Okay, so next question is, how do you split and share expenses in your relationship? And how does being long distance affect your financial situation?
Being long distance, you would think there are a lot of big things financially that weigh on it, but I feel like there aren't a ton. I mean, you could probably speak to it a little more than me because I drive and you don't. So sometimes you're burdened with more of the travel costs when it comes to take it. Sometimes you take the bus up here, and I know that's a little more expensive. I drive out to you, so of course I'm paying for gas and car insurance and all that, but I would have a car whether we're dating or not. We generally go back and forth at a pace where we're staying wherever we're going for a couple of days. We're not just going back and forth day of and like seeing each other for a few hours and then going back. So it's kind of like a light version of living together and having 2 places. I think sometimes the discomfort of having to drive that far for either of us is more of a burden than the actual finances of it. When it comes to us being in a relationship and being together, the only thing that comes to mind for me is dinner, and that's we do like to go out to eat a lot, but we're pretty good about going back and forth with that. I don't really think it weighs in either direction. I think we kind of just, if I happen to get the last couple, you might get the next couple, something along those lines. But yeah, I think largely because we don't live together yet, splitting things hasn't really become that big of a topic on a relationship. It's more just kind of like the day-to-day, like, hey, let's go out to dinner here and there, stuff like that.
I think you pay for dinner more often than I do, but
Maybe I just don't realize it. Yeah, I don't. I feel like it's somewhat equal because like sometimes if I feel like I've gotten a couple in a row, I'll take a little extra longer reaching for my wallet, and in that time you may have gotten it. But I think we're both pretty open about that, and like I don't think there are any resentments about someone paying more or anybody like feeling like they're being undervalued in the relationship or anything like that.
Yeah, I think we're pretty equal in terms of splitting our expenses and the real financial situation between the two of us. We've got it like handled separately, but together at the same time.
Okay, so the next one is how do you define self-worth outside of your professional life?
This is a loaded question, I feel like. For me, I think it is very closely wrapped up in my relationships with others and my hobbies, as cliche as that sounds. But I am someone who, over the years, has tried to separate my self-worth from my productivity and my work. I'm very thankful and privileged to be in a place now where I love my job and I love the people who I work with. There were times when that was most certainly not the case. So I, pivoted to investing more in my personal relationships and my friendships and my family. Not that those weren't things I invested in before, but essentially, I guess what I'm trying to say is I tried to not make my job my personality anymore. You and I love to travel, so we're taking trips pretty often, or at least like getting out and about with our families, and that is way more important to me. And I've kind of like allowed that to nourish me and allow my self-worth to grow in that way.
First and foremost, I think I'm very glad or very happy with a decision I made early on when I was kind of like, I think it was around when I was starting college to pursue a career that I like and know and am good at, but also appreciate and enjoy enough that I don't think I'm going to dislike it at any point, but also not one that I'm so passionate about that it may ruin my love or passion for that thing outside of it. So editing is something I like. It's very relaxing and therapeutic, and I'm good at it, but it's never been something I'm like that I hold as one of my hobbies or greatest passions or loves. So I've always kind of just had my self-worth as a completely separate thing from professional life. I've never valued what I'm doing in my career or what my job title is in that way or anything above the things that make me feel good in actual life.
Our alignment on that is probably part of the reason our relationship has worked so well.
Mm-hmm.
Not to toot our own horns, but to toot them.
Okay, so the next one is, what is the biggest financial secret of your industry?
Something I always get really excited to talk about this as a commerce editor. It's different, of course, from being like a breaking news reporter, but I get a lot of product for free to sample from companies. And this is something that I think is really prevalent also in the influencer industry or even with celebrities. Not that I'm comparing myself to a celebrity, but it's very strange to me that I can get items for free that I would not regularly be able to afford if I had to pay full price for them. I'm thinking like I got Michael a couch, I've gotten myself a new bed. And of course, these things are in exchange for coverage on a website or at least to be considered for coverage. But that is something that is mind-blowing to me to this day, is that I can request some items that I would, at least right now, never in a million years be able to afford with, I joke, like real money. And they are sent to me for free. And I think that's something that's not often discussed, especially with influencers and celebrities who we assume have all this money, but are often getting things for free. So that's part of the reason they can save some money too. And it's part of the reason I can save some money is because I don't have to pay for these things. And it's a privilege. It's not often talked about.
And it's one I'm benefiting from not even being in the industry. So I can definitely see the value of it.
Yeah, I try to share the riches as much as I can. Yeah, I was going to say, well, I'm traveling, so I guess I will see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I will see you. I can't even remember what day you're coming back yet, but Olive and I will see you in a couple of weeks because I'm
Yeah.
walking the dog.
Please give the pup a kiss for me.
I will.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.